Evening, and we're going to start our session this evening. Handloom Talks, first of the series today. We have this evening, we have Bappaditya with us, and this is the first of the Handloom Talk series. And before we start off with our session, let me just introduce Bappaditya to all of you. Well, Bappaditya is one of India's foremost textile experts and has been creating masterly weaves that have redefined Bengal handloom and given the textiles of the state a new look and feel. He has created the brand Bailo as well as the iconic store Bailoom in Kolkata. He has traveled the world to study the traditions of weaving and dyeing, and one of his weaves has won the UNESCO Seal of Excellence. Welcome, Bappaditya, to our session this evening. And we have been talking about this particular topic of handlooms and weaving and weavers for the past few years, and it's a never-ending kind of a discussion because this is something which is so close to our heart, and it is connected to our roots, to our culture, to our heritage, and this being the month of the independence of India. So handloom is somewhere connected to our independence era also because handloom reminds us that uh, we need to look back at our heritage. And handloom reminds us that we are an independent country now and we can stand on our own feet, on our own clothes, wear our own clothes. That was one of the motive actually when the independence movement started. People started protesting first by wearing handloom clothes, clothes woven on our soil, the soil of India. So if you can start from there, Bapadita, I mean, look back at that era because it's Independence Month. So handlooms and our culture and our tradition and how handlooms should be revived. Handlooms should live on to remind us that we are Indians and, our roots are based on that.
Thank you, Shormishta, for inviting me to speak. And yes, I completely agree with you. Handloom was the symbol of India's freedom struggle. The Satyagraha movement, where the best way to fight because India didn't have that kind of an army or that kind of arms to really fight against the British army. So the only way which Gandhiji figured to fight that such a huge, powerful army was to non-cooperate. And because of non-cooperation, the idea of, boycotting foreign goods. And we are today in the year 2025, where we have again gone back to the same concept of vocal using uh, made in India concept has come back, vocal for local. And so, yeah, so it is a very beautiful concept to actually make you free, make you independent of all the other forces that act on you. Like, say, for instance, even in a village, a handloom weaver down at the bottom of the grassroots can weave and sell his own uh, produce and earn on his own. And such, it is such a beautiful way to not depend on someone for work, not go asking for jobs, but doing your own thing. And that is the best freedom. I think that's the freedom in the truest sense. And that is also a reason why I, when I opted my career, I chose handloom so that I could do my own thing. I could uh, work on my own. I could do my own business and create my own line of products, and in a way, not dependent on a corporate or a multinational to give me a job. So I can stand on my own creativity. And similarly, it applies to the handloom weavers or anybody working with craft or handmade craft, where the essence is the freedom.
Thank you so much for that answer, Bapadito. And something really hits me always is that there was nothing called a handloom day before, right? It's a new concept started into 2015 by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So does that Handloom Day celebration really make a change? I mean, does it really affect us, or does it really help people who are into actually on the field doing this particular work? That is a question, a very personal question. I think it sometimes crosses my mind.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I would say, see, symbolism or tokenism, the it always helps in one way, and in other way, handloom has to be a lifestyle, a thing that you use it on an everyday basis. That's also true. But at the same time, say for instance, Mother's Day or Father's Day. I mean, do we that's also relevant, right? Because on that particular day you take out time to actually think or do something special for your mother or your father. So similarly, on a handloom day, we all love handlooms, but sometimes it goes out of our mind, but because in today's day, in 2025, see, earlier handloom was used every day because cloth, the only way of production of cloth was handmade and handloom. But over the years it has changed. We do use a lot of non-hand woven cloth in our everyday, I mean, daily lives. So it is very nice that there is a day where actually we take out time and we think about handloom, and we make an effort to actually either buy or wear or talk about handloom. So it is in our memory, it stays in our memory, it doesn't go away. So yeah, there are, I would say there's nothing harm in it. It's quite a positive. I look at it in a very positive way.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for that answer. Now, coming, to the more ground realities, definitely handloom sector has some challenges. Handloom is not really in a very comfortable situation as I see it. There is a tough competition, tough fight from other kind of producers, especially the machine made one. They're cheaper, they're produced faster, they are more in the market. Maybe sometimes you can say they're more handy because, when you wash a piece of cloth which is polyester, it dries faster. You don't need to, spread it out much to dry it up. All these sort of things are there, but in spite of that, we still opt for handloom. It is, they say, or what they say, I mean, it's a reality that it is good for our skin. It helps the skin to breathe. With the kind of weather we have, handloom is the best for us in this particular part of the earth. But again, when saying that in this particular part of the earth, we say handloom is the best for us. But what about the people living in the winter country, in the winter regions, of the earth where it is always cold? So do we have a tough fight there too, or is handloom there
See,
prevalent? Okay.
handloom really is a it's like a cult. People who wear handloom, it's like a cult. Like you wear handloom not because that it is easy. It is not, like choosing handloom is like, say for instance, I wear handloom. I choose handloom because I believe in that whole philosophy of where when I purchase a cloth or a sari or a shirt or a trouser, my purchase is actually directly linked to a person at the grassroots who is benefiting from the purchase. So this beautiful link between the producer and the end user, you won't find it in a corporate structure or in a like a chain like in Zara or in, I'm sorry, I'm taking names, but in a big chain, in a big corporate chain, you get lost in that grapevine. Whereas when you buy a handmade product, it's actually coming from a small producer, because handmade products you cannot do it in bulk, and uh, so that connection between the producer and the end user is very direct, and that appeals to me. So people who wear handloom, it's like belonging to a cult, and they wear handloom whether it's a colder country or a warmer country. Handloom doesn't mean that only lightweight fabrics are made in handloom, because probably in Bengal we are only exposed to the lightweight fabric because we make it. But I have clients in Canada, I have clients all over Europe. For them, we do very, very thick wools and cottons. And say, for instance, in Kashmir, the Pashmina, it's worn throughout the world in colder countries. So handloom is a tool to weave a cloth. So, I mean, I think with handlooms, we can do anything. We can do wool, we can do heavyweight, lightweight. So, people who choose handloom choose it because they belong to that cult, they belong to that certain look of handloom, they belong to that understanding of the connection of the producer and the end user. They believe they get satisfaction from the fact that what their purchase is actually making a difference. So yeah, handloom is an emotion. That's why handloom is not about just a product.
Handloom is an emotion. I definitely agree with you. And maybe that is how we are tied by. It's a kind of a string, maybe, it ties us all
Yes.
together.
Yes.
Saying that, but there definitely are challenges faced by the handloom sector now. Could you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, handloom, the biggest challenge I see is day and day. Actually, it's a very laborious work. It's a very laborious work. And as we are advancing technologically, the exposure of uh, a person in our village is as same as what I get exposed sitting in Calcutta. So, that exposure shows you that there are also various other means of livelihood. Say, for instance, even say 20, 50 years back, a weaver probably didn't have that option in front of him. So he knew either he has to do agriculture or he has to weave. But nowadays, that option has opened up. There are a lot of other options of means of livelihood. And if you really think, as human beings, we are always looking at a easy path. We are always looking at a way to make our lives much more, I mean, easier and less laborious. Say, for instance, agriculture. Like in the olden days, the agriculture is would actually plow with physically plow it himself. Whereas now there are tractors, there are so many modern technology, which is making their life much more easier, and they're adapting it. So it is inevitable that this is going to happen in all spheres of our life. So that is the biggest challenge. What I feel is we are every year we are losing more and more weavers who can actually sit and weave it themselves with their own hands. So that I think is the biggest challenge.
So to counter that, losing the few people every year, so to counter that, we need to bring in the new generation so that it continues, by reducing the number every year, this it doesn't diminish totally and vanish. So that should be our main target, and that is actually. So how do you think you look at this, bringing in the new generation, the younger generation into the
I
handloom
think
sector?
I think it's I don't know whether it's a 100% solution or not, but what my feeling has been being working in this field for the last 25 years, my understanding is that we need to bring back the pride into the weaving community. I mean, now they have been reduced to just laborers. They just sit and weave and they get paid for what they're weaving, but that the pride is not there. Say, for instance, a software engineer who is also using his creativity to develop a software, or maybe a graphic artist who is using. So there are a lot of other creative fields, or as an artist who actually is painting with his hands a canvas. Uh, we don't see diminishing in that area because there's pride in it, and artists can proudly say that I'm an artist and show his or her artwork, whereas a weaver or a craftsman is reduced to just workers, laborers, and so that pride is not there anymore. It is laborious, it is very physically, it takes a toll on you, and then second is that there's no pride. So my feeling is that if weaving was introduced in the mainstream education system, like how management graduate gets a degree. Similarly, weaver gets a degree that I'm a bona fide weaver who has a degree which is equivalent to a management student or a IIT graduate. Then the pride comes back, because it is ultimately a profession. Like say for an artist who is passing out from an art college, he or she gets a degree, right? And he or she is proud about that particular degree. But there's no such thing in craft, and that I think needs to come. It needs to be institutionalized. It needs to come to the mainstream. Like say for instance, we still in year 2025 we still expect a weaver's a son or a daughter to stick to weaving. Why? I mean, are we going back to the same old caste system? No, it shouldn't be. My daughter or my son, if they are interested, should be able to study weaving as a professional course or as a degree. Only then, when the mainstream people come into it and there is a very healthy exchange, and there is a wide uh, gamut of people coming from various different backgrounds to study, only then it's going to become a more democratic structure, and only then the pride is going to come. I feel that.
Right. That's a very nice way of looking at it. I really hope and wish so that we can bring back the pride in this
Yeah,
particular
because
sector.
you see, if you talk to anybody, mostly we say the weavers are leaving, and they say they complain that nowadays the weaver's son doesn't want to come back to the trade. So my question is, why are we expecting the weaver's son to come back to the trade? Why aren't we sending our children to go and study weaving? So inherently, there is a difference in the hierarchy. So me, educated family, I wouldn't want my child to go and weave, but we are expecting the weaver's son who maybe doesn't want to sit and weave, maybe wants to become an engineer or a doctor or a software or a graphic artist, but we're expecting him to go and sit and weave. So this I think is very unfair. Unless and until we come out of this whole mind frame, we will not be able to protect this.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. To instill in everyone's mind, actually, weaving is like any other profession. If you want to become a weaver, it is not that you are downgrading yourself and you only need to be
Exactly.
an engineer.
In the West, they are proud about weaving. I mean, not every weaver in the West is an artist, but then they're proud that they weave. So that pride is not there in our country. But unfortunately, India is still the biggest handloom manufacturer still. In India, if you look at the entire world, in India, the handloom is practiced in a huge number still.
Right. There are issues like, as I said, the power looms, the rising raw material costs, lack of market infrastructure, and things like that. So, how do you think, especially the rising costs, how do you think they can be, countered so that it really helps the sector finally?
I think here educating the market is something which none of us we really invest in. Say rising in cost is there in every segment. In petroleum, if you say in electricity, in vegetables, fish, everywhere that there's a price rise, but people are accepting it. Why? Because there is people are they know that the cost of production has gone up. Vis-a-vis in handlooms, we still feel when it is handmade by a craftsman in the village, it has to be cheap. In fact, it is funny. We still feel it has to be cheaper than Chinese chiffons and georgettes. We put Chinese chiffons and georgettes at a higher bracket than a handmade silk sari. Why? It's just a conception. So I think that number one. Number two is also educating the client from differentiating between what is power loom and what is handloom, educating them the difference between what is synthetic yarns and what is natural yarns. Like, it's unfortunate today in the when I look at like, I get a lot of feeds in my Facebook and Instagram about various people doing live about the products that they're selling, and I know 90% of them are not either natural fibers or they are not handloom products. They are powerloom products. And but it is being sold as a handloom product, 100% cotton, 100% natural, pure handloom, but it is not handloom. So the customer also doesn't know. The customer probably has the right placed in the heart placed in the right places, because the customer probably wants to invest in a product that is handmade, but the customer also doesn't. So there is so much of misinformation, and it is unfortunate that we don't have a law which prevents a non-handloom product being passed off as handloom. So all these policies needs to come into place, needs to be implemented. Only then, this industry is going to survive. Now we cannot complain about powerloom, because there are certain just plain cloths with probably there is a segment in India who cannot afford a handloom. So will they not wear clothes? Of course they are going to wear clothes, and it has to be powerloom made. It has to be probably blended with synthetic, but it has to be sold with that tag. It has to be sold with that information that this is not handloom, this is power loom, this is not natural fiber. So that information, that, I mean, a customer has a right to information, right? But that information is not being passed on. Lot of duplicacy is happening. So the policy has to change. The policy has to be strict enough where, and just, government has done many various things, like they have started the handloom mark. Now what happens with the handloom mark? You can actually purchase a handloom mark. So even if I'm not actually making a handloom product, I can actually purchase the handloom mark and put it on my sarees or the clothes, and pass it off as handloom. So these problems are there. We have a tendency of just blaming power looms, but power looms will be there. Like, say, I gave you the example of agriculture. With technology advancement, these things are going to come into our lives, and there's nothing wrong in it. But if I am a handloom practitioner and I want to sell handlooms, or you as a buyer wants to buy only handlooms, these information should be available, and it should be implemented very strictly. And this is the problem. I feel. I think we miss the problem. We only blame the power loom, but power loom will be there. Say, for instance, a weaver who is a handloom. I've seen in many cases. He's a handloom weaver. He has four handloom looms in his house. But as I said, there is a every year there is a diminishing number of weavers who don't want to come back to weaving. Now his market is only selling cloth. Now what he does, out of his four handlooms, maybe two handlooms are only working at the moment, because he can sit in one handloom and weave, and he has hired someone else, maybe his wife or someone else, who weaves another handloom. Now he's not getting any other weaver to sit in the other two looms. Now his business is going to go down. So what he does, very naturally, he buys a power loom and he puts a power loom. So two handlooms are running side by side, and a power loom where he makes cheaper sarees and sells it in the market. So at least his business volume is still the same. So in this case, you tell me, what should he do? Should he not should he stop powerloom and his income is going to go down? Of course not. He's not going to do that. But the problem can be solved if there is a policy where he is forced to mark the powerloom as powerloom and the handloom as handloom. So we always miss the point. I mean, we are demonizing powerloom, but powerloom will be there. We cannot demonize it. What we have to do, we have to have stricter policies where it strictly demarcates a product which is handmade and a product which is made by the power. I think this is the solution.
Absolutely. Thanks again for telling us that. Shumona, you have any questions?
I do have one regarding the nice point you raised about that we expect the children of the weavers to continue in their professions. And it is still largely concentrated in the rural areas of our country. So, is there a way to bring the handloom industry to the urban area so that people also get a wider audience gets education on it and they don't always have to think, okay, if I have to ever work in the handloom industry, I have to go and live in that remote area?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a question of choice. I mean, today, if in Calcutta, if of course, in the city, there's a constraint of space, and that is the major problem, which because the handloom needs a lot of space, so that is definitely going to be a problem. But my point is that you could be a handloom practitioner like in the west they have their own small studios where there is a loom, they sit and practice weaving over there. So that it I think it's going to take time, or maybe it will never come, but yeah, it has to be like that where it becomes more of a in the cities it's going to be more of a studio format. It's not going to become like a factory shed which has in the villages. Sometimes in someone's house I go, there are 20 looms in one factory shed. So that is difficult in the cities unless someone really wants to invest in that kind of a space and create a factory. But otherwise, yeah, it has to be practiced in a studio form in the cities.
Thank you for that. And we also have Kunal here. Kunal is,
Hi,
he's,
Kunal.
Hi.
you were talking about letting the customers know what authentic handloom products are. And Kunal actually does a lot of work. He's just come back from the Handloom Day celebrations. Kunal, do you have anything to say?
Sure. So, hi everyone. Uh, this is a long. But I really relate with those problems where we are trying to demonize powerloom and try to say that it's affecting us and not accepting the fact that we ourselves, all the designers. I'll be very blatant and honest. All the designers, all the resellers are openly selling fakes. Okay, and they just misinform people. And even when we try to give them a solution, let's just say if we give them a solution, technical solution where you can go check it, whether it is handloom or powerloom, all the retailers, all the designers, as someone who is not ready to adopt it, because for them it's the loss of business they will be facing, and everyone in the channel faces it. That's a bigger problem. So I did my graduation from IIT Delhi. I started working with the handlooms like last 10 years. I've been working with it, and I made out a solution where we can do a traceability of a product where you can see whether it was a hand woven or not. A very simple technical solution, but I have been facing a lot of challenges from the designers, from the retailers ki nahi nahi hame nahi chahiye because this will ruin our market and all those things. So we have a bigger problem which we are trying to solve, but whenever I go with the solution, no one is trying to adopt it.
Actually, people are not. You nailed it. Actually, the answer you really nailed it. That people are not motivated and they're not interested because ultimately it is the business model which is faulty. It is not about the handlooms being faulty. It is the business model because the business model which most people follow cannot accommodate the technicalities or the challenges of handloom because handloom is challenging because it is handmade, it is human made, it is there are human errors, there is a time frame which does not match with the I mean normal industry time frames. So people but they know that the word handloom sells. So they want to use the tag, but they do not want to actually incorporate handlooms into their business model, because the business model has to change. I'll give you a small example over here. When we started our brand Bailu in the year 2000, we went, because normally we started and we normally went into that same business model which everybody does. So we started going to trade fairs, we to secure orders, and then we would come back, manufacture, and then send the orders to whoever had asked for it. Over 5 years, I realized that handloom, if you want to really work with handloom, this business model doesn't work, because you have to work with handlooms where in today, if a management graduate, a business management graduate will tell you that you cannot invest in your stock worth cannot be huge. But if it's handloom, you have to invest in the stock, because handloom, it takes time. So you have to be confident on the design that you're doing, so that you can actually make the production and then sell. So after 5 years, after, I mean, ripping off my hair, I just couldn't keep up with the order schedules, and we got a lot of rejections. We were on the verge of actually closing and shutting down. So it's then Rumi and me, we decided, okay, what is our real passion? And we figured that our real passion is working with the hands, is the handlooms. So we said, okay, then we have to restructure our business model in a way where we cannot pressurize the handloom weaver. We have to sell what we have. So then we scrapped that whole thing, and we went into a model where we sell only what we have. So a buyer or a customer, when they come, they see you can't play. I don't take any orders from anybody. So if you see, if you like, you buy. If you don't like, you don't buy. Only when we went into that, our business started blooming. So you have to rethink, rewire your business model. And as you said, 100% I agree with you. 99% of the business people who look at handloom as business will not change, and they don't want solutions there. They just want the name. So till they can get the name and they can tag their things as handmade, like even I see like Lakme Fashion Week designers, very expensive clothing, they're all computer embroidered. They're not hand embroidered. So if you're charging a lehenga 1 lakh, might as well use the hand embroidery and give the person the value, the worth. And this is what is really problematic in India. Palooms, computer embroidery, screen printing is not the problem. It is the problem of our mindset. It is the problem that we want to use these tags like circularity, sustainability. These are tags. How many of the business people actually in our line is actually practicing them? So the problem is in us, not in the handloom, I mean, weaver or the community or the craftsman. The problem is in us, people who are engaged into this handcrafted business.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. Like, I've been working a lot with them, and that has been the problem. No one wants to change, even given the data and everything. Do they really want to change? They don't want to. I've been doing this, trying to do this, advocating now for 3 years, like continuously, and like I have only 2 designers who are onboarded with me, like who are actually using the tech. So if you're not using something which you cannot showcase something, then it means that you don't want to change. And like
Totally.
under the banner of handloom, you're just selling powerloom, you're reaping the benefits, everything.
Yes, you're just
Yesterday,
using the tag.
yeah, yesterday, for example, I went to Banaras. I live in Banaras, but I just went to a brand shop, and there they were like all nice shop. And then he was very confident, "Jo hum bechte hain, everything is handloom." And then he just opened a power loom, chiffon sari in front of us, and he was like, "Oh God!" And when confronted, they were not ready to accept it, even given
There
that
are actually most of the people who are selling on the counter don't even know.
yeah. But the guy, he was so confident while selling that, okay, I know we sell it from here. You are standing here, it means there is nothing machine made or anything. When I was telling the nahi boss, yes, dhaga gaya, it is machine made. But he was not ready to up. Even if I know subjectively that, okay, this is machine made, but if you're not ready to accept, then how things will change. And you have
True,
got such
totally.
beautiful shop on the heart of Banaras. If anyone is coming, he's falling a prey for you. And then that's where the handloom.
So the saddest part is actually us who are actually selling it in the market. It is not the powerloom weaver. The powerloom weaver is just weaving a cloth and selling.
Yeah.
It is us. It is the onus is on us, the retailer, who is actually what information are we passing on?
Yeah,
That's the problem.
yeah, that's where, and like again, the consumer has to also change. They need to ask some data points with everyone, because they
True.
are not trying to ask. Actually, the problem is, see, the elite ones, like the elite means like HNIs, they have already those designers or someone like whom they trust blindly. Even if they sell them problem, they don't care. But even the middle class is not asking for the data. That is a bigger problem, because how are you authenticating it? No one wants to ask. Even at least as basic as, like, at least if even if handloom mark is being fake, but at least ask for it, so that at least they are trying to adopt to it and they can move to next phase. But even no one is asking for it also.
True.
And
I
everyone else,
agree with you.
okay, everyone knows it and somehow, but no one knows it in the entire system. That's a
So
big.
I think our I mean effort to save handlooms we should actually look at ourselves and question. And as he said rightly, that the critical mass who is actually buying handloom should be asking questions. So our or on handloom day, or whoever, like people like us, like Shonmishta, you, everybody, we should be able to now educate the person to ask questions, and not always, sometimes it's easy, okay, it's powerloom, it's cheaper if it's handloom. Like now I find, because anyway sari is becoming such a occasion wear, so the beauty of in Bengal handloom was the simple cottons with the thin borders and really narrow jacquard borders. I'm finding it difficult to sell anymore because the price point after it's being handmade, I'm not being able to compete this, because the same look the powerloom people are making, and they're selling it. The sellers are selling it off as handloom. So I'm finding it difficult to sustain my loom. Although I'm passionate, so I'm still continuing, hoping that one day we can educate and people will turn around and understand. But yeah, we all need to chip in our bit, otherwise it'll be a lost case.
Like, because I am based out of Banaras, I've seen post COVID the looms have been half. I went to a cluster, like a smaller cluster within Banaras. There they have 25 looms where they had 1,000 looms pre-COVID, and it's decreasing. So pretty sure that it's like even in that area, I was able to find one, two looms after like traveling for 500 meters or 600 meters, where it was like every household thing. So that's how it is decreasing, and I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
because ultimately if the customer doesn't demand powerloom will stop.
Yeah.
If the customer demands handloom will stop. So it's actually, we as customers, we are very powerful. We have a very powerful tool in our hands, which is demand. And even if it's one, we normally think, oh, it's how me as a one person, I'm buying just one sari or one cloth, how it's going. Yeah, every purchase makes a difference. We have to rise up, we have to fight against it, we have to protest, we have to ask questions, and it's a long drawn process.
And just to give you a data, like 80% of the product which are sold as handmade are machine made. So what happens, like in the retail counters, we have, let's just say, 100 demand. So 80s are being fulfilled deceitfully by the machines. 20 gets converted and it comes to the handloom weavers. That's where the decline is
That
happening.
exactly, absolutely, you have nailed it.
Yeah, there are some big brands in the market now professing to sell handloom stuff, but we who understand are seeing that that is not actually handloom. And they are the popular brands, and people quote them or want to buy from them only.
See,
Difficult.
the trouble is that even when I go to craft council shows, I won't name the show, but there are some
Mhm.
craft council show where the same powerloom thing is happening. Synthetics are being sold as silks, because the way they mix it, if it's only for us who are actually working at the grassroots with the threads, we can understand. Otherwise, it's very difficult for a layman to even find out. But it is it is the responsibility of that organization to actually filter what people are selling. Because when you go to a crafts council show, you will automatically not think that there can be power loom in that show, right? But there are. So
So
I agree with Kunal 100%. I think he has just nailed the way he gave the data about why looms are that 80% and 20%. That's exactly what is happening. Handmade artisan is also cheap, mixing with his handloom product, powerloom products, because it's cheaper for him. It makes more money. Profitability is higher, so he's not even bothered. So, but they don't realize they're actually killing their own market. So yeah, so education at all levels, I think, is required.
I have a question regarding the business models you're talking about. So, initially, now there's a lot of public investor involvement in all industries, and so it is there in handlooms as well. So, when they see that, okay, the production cycle cannot be as fast as they want it to be, what they would ask for the brand is to just increase the price. Do you think that is taking people farther away from handlooms? We see like astronomical prices sometimes for certain garments.
I think I'm very skeptical about corporations and corporates coming into this field because this is not their story. They have never understood what is handmade. They've never understood. It's not only about the product. I mean, that is where I think they go wrong. Is that for them, a person who is for producing, see, their business model is profit driven. So it is all about the turnover, how much of turnover you make. But post COVID, when the whole concept of circularity, the whole concept of sustainability, everyone's talking about. I've attended some very very in-depth symposiums in the West, where they're talking about that this whole business model of turnover, profitability, your yardstick to measure success is actually your profitability. This is not sustainable. So then, if you really go by that, in India, all the corporates, none of their business is sustainable. Yet they are claiming it is a sustainable product. How? So corporates, I'm very skeptical because they don't understand this whole way of livelihood. They don't understand. This is just not their story to tell. And yeah, so I think I'm waiting and watching as to seeing the Tatas and the Birlas and the Reliance. What is going to be the impact? The impact is going to come another 10, 15 years. We'll start seeing the impact. But whether it's going to make it even worse or whether it's going to. Another thing with the corporates is I have faced this because I've worked in the export market is rejections. I mean, I could bear that because but I couldn't pass it on to my weaver. I had to bear the brunt, but I couldn't pass it on to my weaver because that would break his backbone. So corporates, when they grow in such a huge space. Everything is very beautiful, but then suddenly when it crashes, it just breaks your backbone. So yeah, so corporates getting into, I really feel this is not their story to tell. Been working with this community of weaver for the 20 years. So they have become like family. If some problem happens, I have to go and solve it. If I have a problem, they stand with me. If so, the first piece comes of the loom, which is not exactly what I want, but now the loom is set, so I can't change it. I know if I want to change it, I have to throw away everything. So then I have to, on spot, I have to innovate again and make the design, change it in a way where it still looks good and not, So all these are constant every day. I'm living it on an everyday basis.
Yeah, that's where the corporates के साथ problem होती है ना, because they will say कि नहीं नहीं हमारे जैसा नहीं बना, just stop the loom. He has invested
Exactly.
You're not even
Exactly.
doing a single piece, and
Like
you're saying,
I will share a small experience over here. I was working once a long time back. At that time we used to take orders. I was working for a very well-known fashion house in India. We were doing some fabrics. So I had explained to the team that it's loom, it's handloom, it takes time. I need a minimum 3 month
yes,
time because there is a pre-loom stage, there is a post-loom stage, all that. Explain everything. Then the team, so they were going for the Lakme Fashion Week, and then the team sent me the brief, say a month before the Lakme Fashion Week, and then she tells me that when can we get the fabrics? I said you'll get the fabric after 6 months. So then she was like, "You are so rude. I mean, how can you talk to me like that?" I said, what do you think that you sent me a month in advance, and these are very intricate jamdani. I think the weaver is going to weave say 50 centimeters in a day. I've explained to you all of that, and then you send me the colors 1 month in advance, and now you expect me to finish your order within a month's time. 20 days takes me to just yarn dye and then put it on the loom after the drumming. So then I'm left with 10 days. How many meter I can do? Probably 50 centimeters into 10, 5 meters at the most. So they don't understand and they don't want to understand. For them, this is how we work, and you have to fit in to our way of work. But with handlooms, it is opposite. They work in a certain way, and that's what exactly we did. We fitted our work according to their structure rather than expecting them to come to us and fit into ours. So this is the primarily the mindset that has to change. Only then all this talk of handloom, surviving handloom, all this is going to make any relevance and any mark.
Thank you so much. I mean, the conversation or the entire evening became so interesting because Kunal has his on-field experience and Bappaditya. I mean, it was really nice, isn't it, Shumana? I mean, to listening to both of you talking because you have a practical experience of what is happening actually. But all saying that, I still want to own a Paithani, and I still would want to, own a Jamdani, even if it is very costly. Never mind. I've been saving and, and I'm wishing that I can have a Paithani, a real one, in my cupboard. And I also want to have a Patola, which I still don't have. So again, it's a passion. I think handloom, owning a handloom is a passion. It is a cult, like Bappaditya
We
said.
are a
So
tribe. We are a
yes,
separate
so
tribe.
let the tribe, live long, and let the tribe
Totally.
survive, and let us
And
include more in our tribe.
on this note, I would really like to add is the future is handlooms. When a person who is wearing handlooms is actually looking into the future, not backwards, because the future, a time is going to come where all these unsustainable models of business is all going to fall flat, and then who is going to survive? Have the handlooms.